Simon, can you start? Well, welcome to yet another session of Black History Conversations. Around the world, weather can be a bit strange at the moment, can't it? And certainly in the UK, it's very snowy. So we've got extra people joining us who can't work today, and we've got some people who aren't able to join us. So this is just our introduction. So I'm just going to also give the acknowledgement to country because I'm actually in Australia. I'm Liz Millman from Learning Links International, and I acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land. As ever, I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions and the culture of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across the nation. On Sunday, there's going to be a special day near here called Survival Day. It wasn't this year run around the time of Australia Day, which is often when survival days are held, but it'll be really interesting and I'll be able to tell you more about that next week. Australia is a fantastic country with so many different groups of people. This is a map of Indigenous Australia, so that's really incredible. At some stage, we're also need to catch up on the fact that it's the International Decade for People of African Descent, 2015 to 2024. So we could do perhaps having a review of that and what's been happening. But we've very specially and very delightedly got Marie-Claire, who's at the moment in Kinshasa in the Congo. And Marie-Claire, you're going to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your interests in history and your country there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Liz, and hello to everybody, Mbote, Jambo. I am Marie-Claire Faray. I'm a research scientist in molecular microbiology by training. I was trained in the UK, London. However, I am from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I was born in Kinshasa 5 decades ago, and I actually have been working a lot with Congolese women and the Francophone African women in the UK, specifically those affected by gender-based violence and sexual violence. And as you know, the Congo has been at war. There is a heavy conflict in the east of the Congo, and the genocide, the silent genocide. And you know that Congo, we have local indigenous people who have been so-called labeled as pygmy because of the colonization, and there's been a lot of dehumanization in the Congo. And the history, when they teach about history, they don't talk a lot about how Congolese are surviving and they are thriving regardless of the abuse. And as you know, with the history of slavery, stereotyping Black people as inferior, you know, with the past 500 years, and colonization, dictatorship, and the imposition of war, that we have an economic war in the East. A lot of people have been dehumanized, and our history has been lost in many translation or writing. So with regard to what I'm doing, I work a lot on women, peace and security in the Congo, because a lot of people have lost the understanding of their humanity, not only in terms of their physiology, but also just in terms of the culture and social economic contribution to the world. And as we know, Africa is, as we call it, the le berceau, the bed of humanity. And what is humanity without us as human beings first, and not looking at our skin color or our gender, our religion, our belief? So because of the months of last year was 60 years since the declaration of the International African Women's Day. So we have started bringing out African women from history, meaning from Queen Makeda to Nefertiti to today's African women. We have been using the writing of Cheikh Anta Diop and other African scientists who have brought out forgotten women from history. You know, African women have played a significant roles, not only in the African continent, but also in the Caribbean, in America, in even in Europe. So we're trying to bring those women out of the rumble of history. So we started last year by celebrating the International Day of African Women, which is often celebrated on the 31st of July. So what we do is basically undertake a lot of research on books that has been written by African and about African women particularly. And we've used Cheikh Anta Diop, who is a research scientist, a Black African research scientist, who has written a lot about African antiquity history. Excuse my English because I'm a French speaker. So we bring out stories of African queen, heroine, activists, you know, women such as Kim Pavita, Nzinga, we talk about Nefertiti, we talk about Makeda of Ethiopia, we talk about post-colonial, our antiquity, you know, African women's through antiquity and also through pre-colonial era, such as Kim Pavita, and then those during the struggle for independence, either in the Caribbean or in Africa. We talk about women, African women who have attended round tables for the independence of Africa, because we often talk about the forefathers of independence of Africa, but not many talks about the mothers of independence, because they are there. They were also there. We give, for instance, an example of Funmilayo Kuti from Nigeria, you know, a strong African women leader. And then we also talk about women from the Congo who have been forgotten or erased from history, up to today, about the first Black Muslim African woman who's leading Tanzania. This is really to promote the leadership of African women in science, in history, in politics, in religion, really. Because it was the National Women's Day and event.
Claire, we've had able to hear you very well up to now, but it's caught now. So that was absolutely fascinating. Marie Claire will no doubt come back in a moment with us when connections fix. But that's great to hear, and often we hear about Black women. Marie Claire, you're going to have to go out and come back in again, I think. So it's really great that that we've got African women's history. So that's something else that we can follow up on if we start with 100 more sessions. Oh, that's a shame Marie Claire's lost the connection, but we will work on through that. Right, I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint because there are a few things that I was thinking about. We were talking about the International Decade of African Descent, and maybe there's something in there. Now, last week's session was great. I've had a chance to listen to it. I don't know if others who missed it have. Yes, I think they had, because there's quite a few people have had a look at this. Eleanor Shearer's book, River Sing Me Home. Gosh, it really sounds like a powerful story. It was lovely to hear her talking about it and why she felt as an author that she wanted to write that book. It's her first one, so it's quite remarkable. So thank you very much as well, Garrick, for managing that. Then a couple of weeks back, earlier in February, we also had another woman speaker, Montaz Marché, and she talked about Black women in 18th century Britain, and that was very interesting. So it's interesting that we're kind of following it along a bit with what Marie Claire was talking about in terms of a focus on women. And we were also looking at how our work in Black History Conversations fitted our Black history Black British history county by county may fit in with the ideas not only of Montaz but also the National Archives. Right, so a bit out of order this is now. So this was to follow up this Bewdley's Black History walking tour. So I'm hoping we've got Marcia Dunkley with us from Black Heritage Walks Network. It'll be great for us to be able to actually go on this walk and also to follow up the talk to the people, because it's not just a walk that they've created. They've looked at how to learn collectively from the past to ensure the future that's anti-racist and without discrimination. We all need this. There's a big hoo-ha at the moment on Australian TV about a football match yesterday where there was serious racial abuse directed to one of the players. And it sounds as if people are saying this is just enough now, quite enough. Excuse me. So this, though, is an online tour telling the story of Bewdley's history, demonstrating the historical connections between the town and slavery. I'm just going to stop sharing to see if Marie Claire's back. She isn't there. Oh, excuse me. All right, back we go then. So I was saying about the issues, demonstrating historical connections between the town and slavery, and also celebrating the town's history of radicalism. So those are the two issues that they're exploring. So that was exciting. Then this is something else I came across by chance, as I do most of my research, about racism in Germany. Now, I've had a speaker from Sweden who was talking about Swedish links with Black history. I've never had anybody speak from Germany. But this DW documentary was absolutely fascinating. It went through the history of Black people living in Germany. And it also talked about these sort of spectacles that they had, sort of shows with Black people. But it was also interesting because Mandinga Dieck was described as the first African to become a German citizen in 1896. So this is a really interesting film, which brings things really right up to today, and how people now are getting together in Germany to address and cope with the racist situations that they can find themselves in, about racism, survival, and self-empowerment. Right, okay, Marie Claire's on her way back. Just to say that the project that Marcia Dunkley and myself have been involved with Dr. Charlotte Hammond, there's a new collective project, but also a book. So we're looking forward to seeing the book, which is going to be called The Woven Histories of Welsh Wool and Slavery. I'm really excited by that. And I also understand that Professor Chris Evans is going to be looking at the stories of slave cloth produced in the northwest of England. So that'll be interesting too. I've just finished these few off so that you know what else I was looking at. This was a really interesting point. Somebody has had the sense to suggest, she's a singer called July Black, and she said if you change one word in Canada's national anthem, it makes a big difference. So instead of her performing the old lyrics of the national anthem of Canada, which includes our home and native land, she's suggesting that this one word shift, our home on native land, would be a great nod to Indigenous rights, and it certainly generated plenty of attention. And hopefully it'll become permanent. And I asked the question at the bottom, why on earth are we still singing Rule Britannia in Britain? Quite unbelievable, and must make people feel so uncomfortable, many people. Right, I want to talk about this later in the session, so I'll stop sharing there and see if Marie Claire can join us again. Marie Claire. Yeah, Marie Claire, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but unfortunately, if I'm sharing, if I've used video, it's not really helping because of the width bands here in the Congo. The internet is not very stable.
Yeah, just leave your video off and just use the audio.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. Okay, so Marie Claire, you were saying that you're in Kinshasa at the moment, and that you trained as a research scientist in the UK, and that your focus of your work now has been working with Congolese women. You've been working at peace and security. I'm just reading my notes here, and looking at cultural and social issues to support survival and people thriving, rather than having to face the stereotyping and the ongoing ramifications of colonization. That in the east of the country at the moment, there's an economic war, did you say?
Yes.
But you're reminding women and everyone else that we're all human beings, and we must be respected and our efforts recognized. And so when it was the 60th declaration of African women's history, so that was last July, I think, was the 60th, was it?
Yeah, it was the 60th anniversary of the International Day of International. I mean, it was a gathering of African women just before the African Union was created. African women came together already, you know, to kind of come together to discuss the issue that they were facing, to discuss, you know, decolonization and African unity. And they actually, through that gathering, you know, they were able slowly to have an International African Women Day, you know, to declare it the International African Women Day 60 years ago, you know. So, yeah. So we celebrated Pan-African International Women Day was celebrated, always celebrated on the 31st of July. And last year was like 60 years commemoration of that meeting that brought African women together. Yeah.
Well, that's quite fantastic. So that's given us a real insight to start with. Is there anything else, Anne-Marie, that, sorry, I do apologize, Marie Claire, is there anything else that you want to add at the moment to tell us about with the work you're doing and the interest you've got in, particularly in Black women's history? You were mentioning some of the names of some of the fantastic in the past before colonialization.
Yes. So what we actually started last year, because as I said to you, we have a lot of refugees in the UK and coming from you know, African countries. People have lost a little bit of their identity. They no longer understand that, you know, Africa has been the bed of civilization, of various religion, mathematics, science. You know, they don't understand you know, the history of Africa, you know, the antiquity, pre-colonization, during the colonization. So what we try to do is to bring out the women from the rumble of history, really the rubble of history, because as you know, history has been written not only by white people, but by white men, you know. So the African women have been erased a little bit from history, and their agency, their contribution to, you know, their spiritual power, the politics, the economic, the involvement in science, and, you know, has been erased. And most curriculum at the moment don't teach a lot about African women. And we try to use research and writing by Cheikh Anta Diop and other researcher, African researcher, either they are women or men. We have a book that we written by Awa B. Lil Tol. It's a book written in French. That is a book talking about African actress of change, actress of mobilizer, organizer, women who have resisted, women who have been heroine of yesterday and today. So we have been promoting the humanity of these women. We have been talking about the fact that humanity is being held today by indigenous African tribes, such as the so-called Pygmy, the Aka, the Twa, the Himbas, the Mbuti, who are still holding the Ubuntu tradition. I mean, the sense of equality and the sense of preservation of our environment. We talk about the women from antiquity, such as Nefertiti, Makeda of Ethiopia. We talk about Kahina, a leader of the Amazigh Berber. We talk about Kimpavita. We talk about Aqua, this slave who came from Ghana, who became a leader in Jamaica. We talk about Ablapoku, who created the Baule tribe in Ivory Coast, and we talk about the rebellion of Kourak Chao. We talk about Madame Tinubu in Nigeria. We talk about Flor Boagayar in St. Lucia. In Cuba, Carlota, the rebel leader, the Yoruba woman. We talk about La Mulatresse Solitude from Guadeloupe. We also talk about different other women, such as Queen Kanjora from Rwanda. We talk about Ranavalona tree from Madagascar. We talk about the three rebel queens, Marie Thomas, Alexine Agnès, Elizabeth Salomon, Matilda McBean, from the Queen of the Fire Burn from the US Virgin Islands. We talk about how this status that immortalized Marie Thomas, who led the revolt against Danish colonial rule. There's a status now. We talk about them. We talk about in Senegal, Ndate Yala, and we talk about Teitul, Betul, also about our American sisters, such as Louise Norton Little, who is Malcolm X's mother. We also talk about the Dahomey Amazon, from the Benin Empire, how we used to have like the women in the army. And we also talk about women such as Audley Moore. We talk about the Bantu Women League of 1915, 1918. We talk about Fumilayo from Nigeria. So, many, many more. Aline Sito Ediata, some of our Congolese sisters. I don't know if I'm still online. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you. Sorry.
Yeah. So we talk from, women who have played a significant role, but have been forgotten from history. We talk about Awa Keita from Guinea, from Mali. We talk about André Blouin, who is a Pan-African woman who attended one of the first Pan-African meeting that took place in 1959, I think, in Ghana, where there was Kwame Nkrumah, Lumumba, Sékou Touré. We talk about the influence of some of these women during the struggle for independence. We talk about women who participated in the Angolan independence from the Mouvement Populaire de la Libération de Angola, the MPLA. We talk particularly about Deolinda Rodriguez. We also talk about Assata Shakur and Angela Davis, because they played significant role in the US. We also talk about singers such as Cesaria Evora, who has been epitomizing the struggle of African through her music. And we talk about women such as Bella Bello from Togo, Abeti Masikini, Miriam Makeba. We also talk about some leaders in Eritrea, some women such as Mama Zainab Yassin in Eritrea. And we also raise awareness about women who have achieved politically and economically in Africa, such as Ngozi Okonjo of Nigeria, who is now become the first, not only the first African to lead the World Trade Organization, but really the first female of African descent to lead this organization. And we also promote women such as Yaa Sansei from Ghana, Victoire Ingabire, who is an African woman who's really standing against oppression in Rwanda. We also, of course, acknowledge some of the African women who have become presidents, such as Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Joyce Hilda Banda, as well as the newly Black Muslim woman, the first Black Muslim woman to lead a country, Samia Suluhu from Tanzania. So really, we also try to talk about different ideology, the Ubuntu principle, that are the principle of equality, because a lot of people think that human rights equality is a Western principle or ideology. We try to explain about legal instruments such as the Mandan Charter that eloquently define basic human rights, and this was from the West African Sundeita Keita. So there is a lot of things that we try to bring out to teach, not to teach really, because teaching is a bit to share knowledge, because right now, as you've seen, I have difficulty even attending being online. So imagine women in Congo and in different parts of Africa that don't have access to the internet, they don't have access to books, to have role model, to understand actually religion. Some of the religion like Christianity and Islam have, how can I say it, undermine African women's role and tradition. They have dehumanized us. So there is a lot that we are doing, and unfortunately, I cannot attend many of your meetings online, or because we're very busy. But today, I really wanted to come and tell you a little bit about what we've been doing to mark the International Women's Day. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you so much. That was absolutely fascinating. Now, I know Marcia's got a question she wants to ask, but I'm just going to ask you, I hope it's not the same one, Marcia, how you're going to share all these stories, because I'm just going to now talk about the different authors who've spoken with us and the different ways that people are sharing stories to get the word out there. This is one of the things that Garrick Prayog, who's very passionate about, is how do we get the stories to the people who, will benefit by understanding. And you've just got such a wealth of knowledge there. So even though you can't join us all the time, just stay close in touch with you. Marcia, what you say a little bit more?
Yes, basically, I'm absolutely so overwhelmed by this list. And so do you present, because you say you talk about, is this via an Eventbrite login event? How do you talk? How do you get this message across?
First of all, what we realize is that through the history as it is taught in many African countries, particularly in Francophone Africa, where I was born in Kinshasa, they don't teach us about our own history or the antiquity or about Africa, the way Africa has shaped the world, So one of the things we do, first of all, is to gather a lot of information. And please bear with me, I'm not a historian, I'm not a social scientist, I'm just a research scientist trained really in microbiology, molecular science, really. And I have used just my knowledge, my training in the UK to undertake research, and I find out online when I am in the UK, I gather all this information. We have produced a PowerPoint presentation. I mean, if you have time, I can show you, but I don't know whether I can share my screen to show you. We show images, and then we have writing on the side where every woman is invited to read more books, and we promote historian. Really, if you have historian who have written books in French, as I told you, there's a Senegalese historian called Awa Tol, and she has written a lot. There's a lot of those books that are there, which we try to promote reading, and then also digitally, because a lot of some women have Facebook, they have WhatsApp, so we forward those information. I am not a historian. I just help my sister through information that, you know, how I used to do research, to just help them get access to information, really. If you want, I can show you a slide that is in French, but you can see.
Simon can make it possible for you to share the screen. Can you do that, Simon?
Yeah, it's enabled.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
Should be fine then, Marie-Claire. Let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Just a great opportunity to have you with us, and then Garrick's got a point he wants to make. Do you want to?
Okay, I will show you. Let me just share the screen. Can you see my screen?
I can see that you're started. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
this is one. This is one of the events that we did last week, the 1st of March. We organized this event, and we explained to women they can come. We have there are some film, just short film of 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then we do this presentation about this book, De la Reine de Saba, Michelle Obama. That means because women have been triply disadvantaged, but they are survivor of colonization, slavery, and the ideology of inferiorization and male domination. We have this video from the author of this book, who she's talking about her book. So we are in this room with loads of women, and we project this on the screen, and explaining, first of all, that Africa is not a country, it's a continent. We have myriad of languages and culture, and explaining our history, from Africa being called Al-Kebulan to now being called Africa, and where it come from. We talk about our humanity. I try to explain how human beings are equal, and because I'm a molecular microbiologist, I explain a little bit of the human genome that has been sequenced and how similar we are, about us, Africa being the mother of civilization. We talk about Lucy, the remain of Lucy, who has been found in Africa, and explaining what's the meaning of that is. And we're talking about how Africa, indigenous tribe have been really those who have been holding the respect of the environment, and how these people today, although they have been stereotyped, but they are the ones who are actually still promoting and conserving humanity. And we talk about the Mandan Charter and about our sister struggles, so we try to present a pre-colonial era from Nefertiti, Makeda, Kahina, and then the slavery era. We also talk about other sisters from the Caribbean, Queen Zinga, Kim Pavita, Aqua, Ablapoku, our sister from the Aruba, Tinubu. A lot of people don't know about this woman here from Nigeria, who also had some form of economic power, because she attempted to also become a slave owner. And we talk about Flor Bois-Gaillard, about Carlotta Lucini, about the Milatresse Solitude, Rana Valona, the queen, the cruel Queen Kanjogera, who has actually brought in this culture of cruelties in the system in Rwanda. We also talk about these three queens of the fire burn. So this is really how we do it. We talk about that, the language. And so we show these images and teach them, and then we talk more about it. We also talk about Sarah Baartman. A lot of people don't acknowledge enough the mental strength of this woman and how she was dehumanized, but she survived, and even though she died in very circumstances, undignified circumstances, we also try to bring her story to light. And Odlemu, the Bantu League of Sisters, through the ANC, because the ANC, there was not only men leading, but there were also women. And we talk about post-colonial era. We start with this great figure here, from Nigeria, Fumi Yalo Kuti, who's the mother of Femi Kuti. Not a lot of African women knows about her. She was actually one of the first African women to get the Lenin Prize for peace, in Moscow, and she received it in 1917, the Lenin Peace Prize. We also talk about two unknown women from the Congo, Maya Kapongo and Anna Libondo. These two women, actually, there are some controversy about them. They attended the Round Table for Independence of the Congo. They attended the civil society, but they were not allowed to come to the negotiation table. But even though they continued to resist and they were killed during the Mobutu regime, they were killed in an atrocious way. And history in Congo have forbidden people to talk about them so that people cannot revolt. We had a lot of women who were involved in the rebellion movement in the Congo. So there was a lot of research that we are doing about these women, Maya Kapongo and Anna Libondo. We also have this woman from Congo who's really unknown, but called Thérèse Pakassa. During the whole time that Congo was basically under the dictatorship of Mobutu, as you know, Mobutu was really supported by the USA and the CIA, and just after the killing of Patrice Lumumba, there was a lot of rebellion and a lot of revolt from those who really wanted economic and political independence. And this woman held together for many years against the dictatorship of Mobutu, but she was not recognized, and she died really sadly. She died without receiving the acknowledgement of her standing for the Pan-African ideology that Kwame Nkrumah, Sékou Touré, and Lumumba stood for the liberation, the true liberation of Africa, meaning, the social changes that we wanted, because right now we have an elite here in Congo and mainly in Africa who have just replaced the colonial ruler. So that means they have dehumanized their own people. We still have a form of slavery ongoing right now in Congo, where people are earning less than $1 and are really suffering. We also have this woman called Léonie Abo, really unknown, but has played a significant role in the rebellion also in Congo. And our Jeanne d'Arc, Aline from Senegal, she died very early because she resisted. She's a join of Arc in the Casamance in Senegal. We talk about Aoua Keita in Mali, and of course André Blouin, as I said to you, she was one of the leaders. Also, she mobilized over 45,000 women in the Congo, and she came to support Patrice Lumumba and the independence of the Congo. And I don't know if you understand that the Congo is a strategic country for minerals that is used today for the technology and uranium that was used to enrich the first atomic bomb that was drop into Nagasaki and Hiroshima. She came from the uranium came from the Congo. And Congo actually, as Frantz Fanon says, almost like the trigger for Africa. As long as Congo is dehumanized, as long as Congo is you still in the slavery, no intellectual or political how can I say it, independence, I think Africa will remain a lot of countries in Africa could benefit from the resources in the Congo, not only the natural resources, but also the human resources, because a lot of people here are very creative. A lot of people would like more freedom to just for their own human development, but because of the militarization and the neo-colonial power, particularly the corporate, the multinational corporation, Congolese women and men are enslaved. And we also raised the awareness of Deolinda Rodriguez, who played a significant role in the liberation of Angola with the MPLA. We talk, of course, about our Black Panther sisters, and Assata Shakur and Angela Davis. We talk about Miriam Makeba, about South Africa. We talk about Cesarina Evora, Bella Bello, Abeti Masikini. These are singers who really sang about African women and the suffering. And also Fatuma Binti Baraka, Biki Dude, she was 100 years old. And this woman has really been influential in singing about Africa, the food, our culture. She has she's really well known in East Africa. We talk about Mama Zainab from Eritrea, and of course about in Nigeria, this woman who's really been very instrumental. We also talk about the wife of what is his name again? I forgot. From Ghana, one of the leader in Ghana. I forgot his name. I've just forgotten it. Sorry. And so we also talk about Ingabire, Victoire Ingabire in Rwanda, who's been resisting oppression from Paul Kagame. And of course, we talk about presidential leader, women, female presidents. So really, we try to talk about Africa seen by women. Sorry, I was prepared to give this talk. I just put out for you to understand how we do that. We do that in the UK. We also do that in Congo. I'm not a historian. I would like to acknowledge all the historians who are with me. I'm just a scientist helping my sisters in Congo. Thank you. Yeah.
Marie-Claire, that was absolutely remarkable.
Wow.
Truly remarkable. Wow, yes, quite, Marcia, thank you. Right, Garrick, you wanted to come in. That was just wonderful.
Yes, thank you very much, Marie-Claire, for that presentation. Very informative and so much material. You know, it's really enlightening to see that, you know, there's a rich resource out there that's still to be discovered and still to be known. And I don't know, Liz, whether it's possible for that material to sit somewhere on our website with the link so that there's access to, you know, to that material. I think that is so important. In your presentation, you know, you've covered such a wide-ranging areas of topic in which Black conversation need to literally take up all those spaces. On this platform, we talk about, you know, Black history, we talk about African history, we talk about world history, and you bring all of that into one space. And that's exactly how the conversation should be. We should not be restricting our conversation to just Black British history, because the world, the entire globe, the whole cosmos is about, you know, history. And, you know, you've actually, you know, demonstrate that in how you present those women across the world. And I know even in my own country of Jamaica, I know the history of, you know, Congolese people in the Caribbean, in Jamaica. But there's a couple of things I just wanted to to mention, because you referred to the natural resources of Congo, in particular, this laptop that I'm now using to you, that material comes from Congo. Our mobile phone, all the material, in addition to all the rubber, you know, for the cars and so forth. There is a government document, American government document, and a European document that actually state that Congo should never rule itself because they want to control all the raw material there. The West want to control that, and they will never allow Congo to take control of their country. That is written. That is what the governments of the West have agreed. They will continue to exploit Congo and the rest of Africa for the natural resources. That is a fact.
Yes, yes, unfortunately, we are aware of that and we are resisting that. Our parents have been resisting that. Our grandmother has been resisting, our ancestors. We are continuing to resist and we are standing. Even as I speak to you, I'm not free because I know that I can die anytime just for speaking about this. I can show you information that we have, that we put together about the Congo. If you want, I was speaking just recently, just on the International Women's Day, about our struggle. You know, I'm a research scientist in molecular microbiology. Yes, I can work in a lab. I've been working in a lab in the UK for 20 years, but I'm a survivor of gender-based and sexual violence in childhood. And I was completely traumatized by what was happening in the Congo, by women in the Congo. And I stood up, I said to myself, what is the meaning of my life in the UK here, benefiting, living with this with this colonial power while my sisters are dying in the Congo? That was one of the reasons why in 2006, I started coming back here working with my sisters, because as long as we not continuing to resist, we are colluding with colonial power, our people are dying and are suffering. We need to sacrifice. And this, I'm not doing it on my own. We are part of a network of Congolese women. If you want, you have 5 minutes. I don't know whether you have time. I can reshare my screen just to show you what we have been talking about. When I'm not only talking about the history of African women, we are doing what we can do for the Congolese. Let me just show you, because recently here, I again gave a presentation about the Congo just on International Women's Day, where we explain exactly why the Congo is so strategic, our mineral resources, the use of the uranium for the bombing, because, you know, we celebrate Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we talk about what happened to the people in Japan, but a lot of people don't understand about the sourcing of the uranium in Congo and how Congo has been engulfed in this country because of the coltan and the niobium and the lithium. Today, everybody's talking about green energy, but Congo is being taken hostage because of the cobalt that's going to be used in the new electric cars, and you know, and while some people are talking about you know, green technology, and we have our children mining those cobalt in the Congo and being enslaved. We've demonstrated the link between natural resources exploitation and rape and the war in the Congo over several years. You know, Congo has been called the capital of rape, and I don't know if people have heard about Dr. Mukwege and the Nobel Peace Prize. He should not be having Nobel Peace Prize just for repairing vagina of women, because women, the battle in Congo has been fought on women. And as I told you, I'm myself a survivor of sexual violence. So I'm taking this stand for my sisters, because the violence, the war in Congo has completely dehumanized the Congolese, and I have brought in increase of gender-based violence. So there's a lot of United Nations Security Council resolution on women, peace and security in the Congo that we know about, but how could women be at peace with a country at war, with lack of justice and this culture of violent masculinity and retrograde patriarchy? We try to implement the women, peace and security here in Congo. I myself have faced abuse from men, because just for being intellectual, just by talking and coming into platform, you have men who are actually undermining you because of that culture of undermining women intelligence of or knowledge or women humanity, and this is our platform. This is Common Cause UK, which I am a member. It's not only me, of course I have the time to join you, but there's all these women who are part of Common Cause UK. And in the Congo here, what we have done, we have been raising the voices of Congolese women at the international level by writing a lot of memorandum. We are part of this network called Friend of the Congo. That's where you can find a lot of our memorandum. We have done a lot of interview, even in Al Jazeera, CNN. We have been doing a lot. We have even taken British women with us to the Congo in 2010 to protest against the war. As you know, in Congo, there was women who have been buried alive just for resisting. And here in Congo right now, what we have done, we have set up a center that we call the Center for Women, Peace and Security, and we have been contextualizing and bringing, building the intellectual and the economic capacity of women. And this is our center. This is where I'm based right now at the moment. It is extremely hard because we try to fund it through ourselves and through like-minded people. We don't want the UN or anybody like that to fund us, or the EU, because all they do is recuperate our work and impose their agenda on us. So this is a little bit of some of the things that we are doing. And another thing we do is that we promote books that are written by Congolese women and Congolese actors and African actors, because here in Congo, there's not enough books. People have been, are illiterate. So we try to promote some of the books. So for instance, as I explained to you, so we give a lot of trainings. One thing we do a lot is use the notion of human equality and equity in the induction training that we give, because a lot of Congolese have lost touch with science, and as a scientist, I tried to bring science back into capacity building of our sister, just explaining that we are human because of this process and because all of us are equal, physiologically, we are equal for those who are in belief, because there's a lot of belief in religion legally, we try to bring it back and explain what is human right, because a lot of people have been brainwashed to think that human right is a European context, which is not, is a human context, so we try to bring all this and talk to them about legal framework, all the legal framework that exists, and explain to them that all this recent legal framework, we've had also, our own legal framework. So there is a lot of things that we do, and just with women, explaining our body, our reproductive system, and it's not a disease, pregnancy is not a disease, because these are tools that have been used to dehumanize women and to stereotype women. So there is a lot of things that we do. One of the things that we try to explain mostly is this slide here, that women really are just human beings. We're not inferior, because sexism and racism has been used here to undermine African women. And we use Steve Biko says that same people have to understand that we are equal, that women have to understand that men are not superior to us, and that we are not inferior, and we are just, you know, human beings, really. So I wasn't prepared to give you a talk. I just wanted to share a little bit of this slide with you. Thank you.
Marie-Claire, that was absolutely amazing, and the challenges that you've got are just so great. I think we all understood a little, but we understand a lot more now. And I appreciate that you've taken time to show us the way that you share information, because this is what Garrick was saying. How are we getting to share information? And I personally think PowerPoints are brilliant. And I think the more we can put together, Marcy is a PowerPoint fan as well, the more we can share using the new technologies, the better it can be. Marie-Claire, that was fantastic. I think Marcia wanted to say something.
Yeah, so thank you. Wow, I'm just absolutely speechless. I'd just like to ask, so, you know, in terms of the internal troubles of the Congo, is it, for example, an internal governmental thing? Is it for, I don't know if this is the correct word, a tribal thing? Sorry if I'm using the correct word. What is actually causing this conflict?
The problem is, as Gary stated, Congo is, in French we say convoité, c'est la convoitise, meaning there is a lot of people who want to use natural resources in the Congo. Basically, the Congo came together. There were, you know, as a country before you know, colonization. The Congo used to be how they call it, an entity belonging to King Leopold II of Belgium, and it was seen as a commercial tool to take resources. So basically they brought together different empires, the Congo Empire, the Luba Empire, the Himma, you know, they brought them together, negotiating for land, you know, and the people accepted because they were ruled by armed. The Congolese fought so much, because I have had history from my own grandmother, and my own grandmother, she's from the Mbuti tribe, the indigenous. So she explained how many of them died in the end, because we value human life. A lot of Congolese said, let's not fight, let's just give the land, but we will continue to resist. Right now, we've had Patrice Lumumba was killed because he tried to kind of just fight for our own, you know, dignity, independence, economic and intellectual independence. So what happened is that what they tried to do basically is like divide to conquer. It's not about cultural or ethnic violence or fighting amongst ourselves. It's, you know, multicultural, supported by the 5 members of the United Nations Security Council, particularly the USA and the UK, who are actually supporting their multinational corporation, you know, the multinational corporation who are actually arming rebel groups, arming neighboring countries such as Rwanda, Uganda. We have militia. I mean, there is so much to say, but it's just to tell you that Congo right now is under the oppression of the UN Security Council. You know, we have the UN peacekeeping mission in the Congo right now, oppressing Congolese. They impose policies, either economic policies or political policies. For instance, imagine right now the Congo is led by an illegitimate president who was not appointed. He didn't win the election. However, he's been supported. So basically what is going on is that they impose on us oppressive regime. This oppressive regime oppress any type of civilian. So Congo has been dehumanized, and also it has been, there is like this system of capitalism, imperialism, capitalism, where people have lost touch of their humanity. There's lack of compassion. When people have been dehumanized, they are now in a survival mode. There is no cohesion, you know, it's difficult. So I don't know how to explain that properly in English. English is not my first language, but I hope some of you, with time, we will communicate. Unfortunately, I don't have time to come every Friday to this meeting because of the internet and also my commitment, but I really wanted to be here today because of it's the Women International Day was on Wednesday, and we do a lot. We are not known, but we do a lot of work in terms of content, really.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for, you know, making the effort, because obviously it's so hard for you to talk about. It's really, really difficult. We understand that the situation that you're in, and the feeling of such massive entities with the UN Security Council and the others that you've spoken of, just making you feel there's lack of compassion, there's that your country is being taken advantage of again. Just such a sad history for your country and your peoples, and I think all our hearts go out to you, to be quite honest. Truly, it is.
Thank you. I'm just the small tip of the iceberg. There's so many. I get my strength for so many other women. It's just because, you know, I'm a scientist. I received some training from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in the UK and Queen Mary University, where I undertook some PhD work. But, you know, if I didn't do that, I wasn't going to be able to help, you know, raise this issue and bring. So I'm not a historian. I'm not a political scientist. I'm not a historian. I have not written a book. We are really trying to bring the change, you know, by contextualizing the Women, Peace and Security agenda. I mean, it's my life I'm talking about. It's the life of so many other Congolese women. We feel if we don't take a stand and do something about it, you know, we're going to leave this to our children who are not even going to know the history. You know, it's going to be heavy on them. So we might as well sacrifice. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. I have a son, I've got a grandson who is only 4 years old and who is experimenting racism already in the UK at 4 years old. Can you imagine? I mean, how can we live? There's a lot. I'm not here as a victim. I'm a survivor, and there's so many other Congolese who are survivors, but they are not known. So what we're trying to do is to continue with the resilience, to continue until we win, but we will win.
Well, I hope we can give you some strength. Sharing with us today has been incredible. As a French speaker, I'm just in awe of your English, because you've explained everything so very, very clearly. And I thank you for that very much indeed.
Thank you.
Eric wants to come in now.
Yeah, just a point. Can I ask Marie, what's the situation for school children? What is it like for school children getting education? How is this impact on the situation on the ground?
The situation is dramatic. School is, if you can afford school, teachers are not paid. They are not trained. They don't have enough adequate material for their own human development. The curriculum is set sometimes by the government, but also there are private schools. I mean, when the curriculum is set, it doesn't give them room because they don't have enough books for their own human development, because to teach, you have to be yourself someone who has some form of space to grow, you know, and to understand what are the new information out there to teach children. The space is not adequate. Teacher don't have enough capacity. You have classes with 60 to 70, sometimes 120 people for one teacher. And this is what teacher, they have introduced something they call freedom for primary education. But what type of education? Private school might have a bit more, but it's only for those who can afford. So for a small elite, not even 10%. So education, and most of the education are in French, while most of the kids learn French local language, Lingala, Swahili, Kikongo, Chiluba, how they are imposing French on children. So basically children try to speak French and understand, but some of the mathematics are not taught in local language. So really education is not adequate in the Congo.
That's a very interesting point. It's always a real challenge when European language is used in as a priority, and you're not learning in your home language. That was absolutely fantastic. Now I'm just going to take 2 minutes, if that's all right, just to say that I'd been working on something else which I think will interest you. But we can follow up on this again another time, because I'm not going to overrun this session. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been really moving, your explanation of what you've been doing, and so enlightening to tell us the names, to name all those women, those fantastic women who've done so much over the years, and women whose names would be lost to history if it wasn't for projects like yours. That's absolutely fantastic. Now I'm just going to it's always the moment when you can't find what you're looking for. Let me just see. I do apologize again. I explained to people that at this time of night, for me, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So forgive me if I'm a bit slow. I just need to find that PowerPoint. Where's it gone? PowerPoint. Oh yes, here we are. Right. Okay. So we're looking towards, and I think most of you understand, that we're looking towards having done almost 100 sessions now, which is truly remarkable. And one of the things that we've done is looked at ways of how we can share the stories of Black history. So if it's okay, I'm just going to show you some of the things that we covered in the first 3 seasons. Now, bear in mind, this is season 8 we're in now. So there's a whole lot of other stuff. And this is where my colleague, Marcia, and others, we've been talking about a website. How do we begin at this stage of the game to try and share some of the ways that we've looked at authors sharing history? So the bright coloured background are all children's books. And I put that as an inspiration, not that we've specifically looked at children's books, although we did look at some of the books that Bunmi's doing, Bunmi Olisan. She's Nigerian, lives in Canada, and her Sankova publications have now gone to Sankova Stories. So in our very first session, we invited, there's lots of text on these, I'm not going to go through that. We invited Morgan Dalfinis because we wanted to value linguistic history, and he'd produced a book about history and language in St. Lucia. And it's this same thing about the importance of the Caribbean languages being valued and recognized, as well as the African languages being valued and recognized. Another book which was very, very important to us for Black History Conversations was David Alston's Slaves and Highlanders. Now, David Alston was one of the founders of Black History Conversations. He's been so busy since his book was published, and he's been involved in other research and things. He's not joined us for a while, but this book, Slaves and Highlanders, The Silenced Histories of Scotland and the Caribbean, is an amazing book because historians in Scotland were making out that Scotland wasn't much involved in the slave trade, as an example. And so David's blown that out of the water and really opened up the whole story. And his book even won the Scottish Book of the Year for 2022. An absolutely remarkable achievement. And we're so grateful to David that he's supported us wisely and calmly as we set along the road of doing Black History Conversations every week. Now, another author who's just been fantastic is Chris Evans. He was the inspiration, having written Slave Wales, the Welsh and Atlantic Slavery, 1600 to 1850, to inspire a project that I was involved in, and Marcy's been involved in more recently. Caroline Sanson, who is with us today, was very active in the project on Welsh plains, the story of Welsh wool that was produced specifically to clothe enslaved workers in the Caribbean. And the idea of doing that research came from the work of Chris Evans, his research, and we're looking at expanding that as well. Right, I'm just going to just carry on a couple more. One of our regular contributors was Helen Papworth. She's not joined us that much lately, but she'd written a book about Henry Morton Stanley's wife. Now, she comes from North Wales, Helen Papworth, and Henry Morton Stanley came from North Wales. And his story is a story with links with Central Africa, as you will all realise. And so to understand that story, but at this point we were looking at historical fiction. So this is a really interesting way of telling stories of history that make them more accessible to some people. Other people don't like them. But then we've got this story, which is Tim Jewell joined us in the early sessions to talk about the research he had done, because he now has access to the Belgian Royal Archives. So he was able to explore more into the way that King Leopold of Belgium connived to commit such horrific crimes against the people of the Congo. Very interesting speaker, very profound in his research. So we've talked there, most of those authors are white. Morgan Delphinis is from St. Lucia, but we've also had other speakers. Tony Talbot's parents, I think, came from the Caribbean, and he wrote many years ago now a really good book called The History on the Page, Adventures in Black British History. And he was one of the people who first started talking about all the Black people who'd been in the UK before the 1948 and more people started coming from the Caribbean. So this is a really early book, and he now is a lecturer at the university in Ghana, and he's still following on with the theme of Black history and these stories. We also had Dr. Hilary Robertson Hickling spoke about her late husband, Professor Fred Hickling, and the work he'd done related to post-colonial studies. And his book is called Psychohistoriography, Post-Colonial Psychoanalytic and Psychotherapeutic Model. So that's a really interesting book. He talks about Ubuntu in this book, which you've been referring to, Marie-Claire. And I'll just do two more. This one was when Professor Sati Fwakshat, who joins us from Jos in Nigeria, and he's been speaking to us about the challenges of learning about history in Nigeria. History was a subject that went off the curriculum. Anyway, he introduced the story of the Scramble for Africa for us, which obviously had enormous implications for the whole continent. And also, Yasser Faray shared his book, which is called Overstanding Rastafari, Jamaica's Gift to the World. And that's a really very well written description about the different aspects of Rastafari and the impact, as it says, to the world. Just amazing. And I was going to say, with regard to Nigeria, we were joined a few weeks ago by a teacher in Nigeria who is now using the new online textbook for West African history. Now, I don't know if that covers Congolese history, but the textbook has been put online so that students who can access online can access the textbook of West African history, which has been written by African academics, historians, and that's an excellent resource. Another excellent resource, which I haven't got here, but I'm just going to mention, is the UNESCO series on the history of Africa, which is also produced as TV programs, as well as an enormously well-researched series of books. And finally, I'm just going to say that The Legacies of British Slave Ownership is a book produced by the Centre for the Study of the Legacies of British Slavery. And there's all sorts of information in there, with a great interview with the gentleman who was the new director. He's been there a couple of years now, Matthew Smith. So this was just a taste for those of you who weren't involved in Black History Conversations in the early days of some of the things that we've covered. We have covered so much. So I just wanted you to have a feel of that. And yeah, you're saying online resources for accessing books online. Yes, Marie Claire, I'm reading that in the chat. So one of the things that we could do is to see how we're setting up a website to see how people can access information. And now more and more information. In fact, a book that's come out really recently by Professor Robert Burrows on the story of the African Institute in North Wales, which is a very interesting story. That is made, it's a proper publication, it's a proper book, but it's actually available free online. And a lot of the publishers are now moving to put some of their new publications free online. And that is an incredible resource then. But obviously you have to be able to access things online. So I hope that was okay to share those. So I'm going to suggest now that we wrap up. If there aren't any other questions, I'll just do another thank you, but I'll ask Simon to switch off the recording now. Thank you very much indeed, Marie Claire, for sharing such an incredibly difficult story, but it's really wonderful to know what you're doing, and congratulations to all the women you're working with. Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much indeed, Marie Claire.